Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick. I'm the Sustainable Households Manager for Urban Green Lab, and you are here for another edition of Sustainable Nashville Live. The purpose of this series is to open a dialogue between the public and great organizations that are doing work in and around sustainability here in Nashville. And today, I'm here with Kia Brown of the Nashville Food Project. And Kia is the community gardens manager, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. Is a garden pun? All right.
Oh, I got it.
Sorry. Before we begin, I want to remind you all that aside from very bad jokes, Urban Green Lab is a nonprofit. And if you feel so inclined to support the work that we do, you can make a donation at our website, that is urbangreenlab.org, or you can text Team UGL, one word, to 44321, and we'll get a donation link sent to your phone. And with that, let's get going. Kia, how are you doing today?
I am doing actually really nice. I have not stepped outside today yet.
Okay.
So it's just been ridiculously hot. And there's been this crazy ozone warning.
Mm-hmm.
I was working outside yesterday morning and it just felt like you're breathing through just a swamp.
Yep.
And it wasn't the most pleasant experience. So it's been nice to kind of vary it, switch it up a little bit and work from home for the first half of the day.
Yeah, right there with you. I woke up a bit early today and checked the temperature at 6:30, and it was 80, but it felt like 85.
Yeah, it's so crazy. You can't escape it by going earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you step out and you're drenched in sweat.
Yep, and you never stop sweating.
No, not at all.
All right. Can you start us off by telling us a little bit about the Nashville Food Project and their mission?
Yes. So the Nashville Food Project, our mission is to grow, cook, and share nourishing food with the goals of cultivating community and alleviating hunger in Nashville. It was started in 2011, after the Nashville floods, as kind of a response to wanting to give more. It was originally part of another program called Mobile Loaves Dishes, and just wanted to be more rooted into our community and into our food system here in Nashville. So we have a lot of amazing programs that are centered around food. We work from everywhere from food, excuse me, food waste management and stuff like that, taking in different donations from different restaurants and grocery stores, and kind of creating meals out of that, to having a couple of different gardens and different garden programs that focus on different things. So we have production garden that produces vegetables for our meals program, but they also produce vegetables for our new catering program that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even now, that was new last year and it's completely switched up now. We have our community garden program, which I'm the manager of, having a couple of different community gardens throughout Nashville to kind of work with people who lack the access to be able to grow their own vegetables or are located in places that are a bit food insecure. And then we also have this market garden program, which works with people who want to go a step beyond, community gardening and learning how to actually produce vegetables and for profit, and what it takes to make a plot of land profitable, and how you work with that marketing and stuff like that. And so that's changed, but we've typically had people out at our farmers markets.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, we've had that market garden program called Growing Together. They've been located at farmers markets, really working directly with restaurants and stuff like that to provide produce. And they also sell individually.
Yeah, that is awesome. I was familiar with most of y'all's programs except that last one. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys are doing some really good work around town. So the next inevitable question, How has COVID impacted the work you all do?
It has changed it. I almost want to say that maybe the tornado was a warm up to what COVID, like it's kind of crazy to even think that, to remember
Yeah.
that we had a tornado like right before all of this was happening. But yes, so with the tornado, like it really changed our model to start thinking about like what emergency response kind of looks like. And then from there, kind of having to shut down a lot of our volunteer work. We have always said that we do our work intentionally so that like specifically need volunteers to do our work because we want it to be Nashville helping to feed Nashville. And so by making the decision to not include volunteers in our work anymore, just due to like health and like safety reasons, we've had to kind of scale back a little bit, but also just reimagine what how our programs work in all aspects.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, we're doing that with our nonprofit as well, but I'm sure, that rings true for restaurants, corporations, and nonprofits. Everyone's kind of either having to adapt or figure out an alternative solution to everything that's happening. My follow-up question for that was, how has it affected volunteerism? And it seems like pretty heavily.
Yes, so we don't currently have like a volunteer program. I know at least like in the community garden program, how we've kind of had to work around that is we've had to change our whole entire model of community gardening. So before, when you signed up to be a community gardener, you would get your own individual plot, and you had autonomy over that plot, and you like came to like meetings twice a month, and there was like potlucks and stuff like that. But since we weren't inviting people into our spaces, we changed the model to a communal plot type of system, which means that instead of the one plot having like all these different vegetables, one plot would be dedicated to one type of vegetable.
Gotcha.
So, and all of that was like planted like in March and stuff, so that when we were able to figure out how to bring gardeners back into the garden, that there would already be food growing for them. And so with that and thinking about that, we then decided that instead of, you have like individual gardeners taking care of their plots and volunteers helping to maintain the site, we would just combine that. And when we're able to bring the community gardeners back in, that we would have times where we're working on like the different vegetable plots, and then also work days where we're working on the site of the community garden in general. And so that's how we've kind of had to shift in the community garden program. Without being able to bring in volunteers, our community gardeners have been invited to maintain more of the space, which has been a great learning opportunity from the gardeners. Like I've gotten a lot of feedback just saying that how they like knowing specifically like what they need to do for like this plant and that plant, and how there's like a nice routine, but also being invited to maintain like the outside spaces, like the compost system, and like harvesting like herbs and stuff like that, and doing a lot of like the outside maintenance that would typically be done by the volunteers. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And also just an interesting point you made about how the gardeners are kind of just using this, or learning from this and educating and getting educated on these other aspects that come along with kind of closed loop urban farming, essentially. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the Nashville Food Project?
So I have been with the Nashville Food Project for, like 5 years now. And I started off as a volunteer. I had just come back from doing an AmeriCorps program. It was the FEMA Corps program underneath AmeriCorps. And so basically I was working with the Federal Emergency Management Agency for about a year, either at regional offices or help at an active natural disaster. And about every couple of months, we would change locations. And so I was stationed in outside Seattle area, and we did some extra volunteering to help out at a local, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking on this word. A local harvest party event.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I feel like that's not what, anyways. So we were out there like helping them out with like their harvest party. And they were like, it's okay. Like, we're having a potluck, no need to bring any food. You can just eat and stuff like that and just join us once lunchtime rolls around. And so I was standing in line, like getting these vegetables. And I think that I had just been really accustomed like to potlucks in the past being maybe you forget about it, or like you rush like to the store and like you grab a bag of chips and stuff like that. But when I got there, like everything, there was so much intentionality like put into this food. And it was all just really fresh. They were just trays of like freshly baked salmon. And also they were just all these, like the thing that I really remember is like these carrots that had like little legs, and they were just like very like scraggly and like weird looking. And it's like something that you can tell is like fresh from the garden. So I'm looking down like at my plate of like all this like delicious looking like fresh food, and then I look up to try to find some place to sit, and like it's just long benches of people of different like ages and races, like just laughing and just like enjoying one another's company. And it was just kind of like an aha moment of like the magic of people coming together to celebrate good food that they've grown together. And I was taken aback. I was blown away. And I was like, everybody should have the opportunity, and this should be available for everybody to experience. And so once my program ended, I came back to Nashville. But then I was like, this is such a great idea. I really like food is my thing now. Like, I want to learn how to grow it. And it's like, but I had no idea how to grow anything. And it's like, okay, well, before like I dive into this, I should probably, like, I was in the volunteer spirit. And so I was like, okay, well, let me volunteer at different community gardens around Nashville. And one of the gardens that I volunteered at was the Nashville Food Project. And so I've been a pretty consistent volunteer. Like, I started off in December and was a pretty consistent volunteer for, I'd say, like about 5 months, which, come to find out, is like a very rare thing in the garden. And so there was like a job that opened up, and they were like, hey, there's a job opening, like you should apply for it. And then I did, and I got it. And so here I am 5 years later.
Yeah, that is a beautiful origin story. And I kind of want to get back to that memory of you, like, you got your plate of vegetables and you look around and it's just that aha moment. Because my next question for you is, how did you get interested in sustainability / sustainable agriculture / urban farming?
Yes. Yeah. Well, with that, gosh, like with, so it was like this aha moment, and then it came from learning more. Like, after I had come back to Nashville and I started volunteering, the garden manager at the time, Christina, Bentrup, was really into just like sustainable agriculture. And it's like from learning from her, like hands-on, like the processes and like why we do the things that we do, like in our gardens. It just, honestly, it just makes sense. I, of course, have like read different articles and have seen like many different things about the harm that our industrial agriculture system is doing like on the planet, and just how unsustainable it is. And so I had already had like these feelings like inside myself that it's like, I want, like, how can our connection to the land be beneficial for both the land and also for us? And so being around people who also cared about these things, and then learning more about like permaculture practices and how you can, you know, put those practices like into urban agriculture, just like really like, I don't know, it got my little nerd noodle going. And I was like, this is just like really exciting things. And like, I don't know, I've always been like really interested in ecology and just like how different systems just like work so well together.
Yeah.
And it's like with sustainable practices, like that's basically you are adding like the human aspect of like that food web.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, I feel like I just started like geeking out and stuff like that. But
That's literally what this interview series is all about. So you were
nice.
totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I feel like in so much stuff, like humans don't consider themselves a part of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they're removed and being put on this pedestal as like overlords of like over nature or something like that, or like
Mm-hmm.
um, when you even think about conservation and stuff, like you think like, let's preserve this nature area without human
Mm-hmm.
involvement in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sustainability and sustainable agricultural practices, I mean to me that it's like, what is the best way that I can work with the area that I'm in
Mm-hmm.
and make both like myself and then also the land flourish?
Yeah.
How can I add myself back into nature?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, that you're essentially defining sustainability. It's, you know, just exist, living in existing systems, and, you know, living a life to ensure that those systems stay around while you still meet the needs of today and the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful answer. And I appreciate you geeking out.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the space.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So how exactly do you select locations for community gardens? And do you find that the communities that they're in are taking advantage of them?
Gosh, I think it's been a while since we've selected a new location. We actually had to downsize a lot of our community gardens. We used to steward about 5, and now we're down to 2, just to kind of like reevaluate our program. So I guess like the first way, like if we were to like start to like select like new locations, it would have to come from the community first.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of the main things like about community gardening is that like you can have a garden in a place, but if the community didn't ask for it, or like if nobody knows that it's there, it's going to be hard to get that buy-in, and it's going
Yeah.
to be hard to sustain that buy-in. So at the moment, we have 2 community gardens, one in North Nashville that we've stewarded at least since before I was working at the Food Project. It's behind a family resource center.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another one that we are just now kind of, this is our second year community, excuse me, it's our second year gardening in this location. And it is located at the site of a new park
Okay.
called like the Mill Ridge Park. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
In
But,
in the south part of the county?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right by like Cambridge High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the garden located in North Nashville, yes, a lot of the community does, like we specifically look for people who are located in the neighborhood, or at least have some sort of connection to the North Nashville neighborhood to be a part of our, to be a part of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of people, because it's a family resource center, there's a lot of people coming in and out for like the different resources and services that they
Mm-hmm.
provide. And so we put like a lot of flyers and really trying to get a lot of those folks like to come in. We have, also like word of mouth, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's also really great to get people to come in to the garden. But with North Nashville, North Nashville is changing.
Yeah.
And so the people who are now like living and working like in this area, we also want that to be represented, but maybe at a lower percentage. And so we do have a prioritization of like who we say gets first priority into our garden spaces, but also wanting to have it being representative of like everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
And so in our Antioch location, a lot of the gardens that we moved away from, it was actually really beneficial for these people because they lived a lot closer to this new garden space. And so we were working with families from Bhutan and also from Burma. And so a lot of them lived more like in the Antioch area and were able to follow us and follow that garden to Mill Ridge.
Awesome. And before we move on, you're talking about North Nashville and the Family Resource Center. I just want to do a quick plug for Gideon's Army.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. So how does the work you all do at the Nashville Food Project contribute to a greener and more sustainable Nashville?
So like I was saying in the beginning, I feel like the Nashville Food Project touches on a lot of different, kind of has its fingers like all up in like the food system. So one of the main ways that I can think of is the fact that we accept a lot of things that would typically get thrown away. So like with our donated foods, we go to like Whole Foods, and especially like when the tornadoes, actually, when COVID happened, we got a lot of donations like from different hotels and stuff that had already purchased like a lot of food for different conferences that were now like closing or like not being able to be held and stuff like that. And so just taking in as much of that food that typically just would have been thrown away, I think is a huge thing. The day after the tornado, we have, there's this meat conference. I don't know if you know about this, but there's this meat conference that happens in Nashville. I think it's either, yes, MEAT.
Okay.
There's this meat conference that happens like in Nashville, maybe either like every year or every other year. And it's basically a place for vendors to kind of set up their wares and show what it would look like, you know, in a grocery store. And so it's like a large, like huge hall in the Gaylord that's just like decked out with like so much meat. And before, all of it, you just used to be thrown away.
Yeah.
They just used to toss all of that. And now we come in and we glean that, and we get, I think it's, gosh, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but I want to say that it's more than like 15,000 pounds of meat that we get from this conference.
Good. Oh, wow. Okay. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's if like, and I might be being like conservative, like with that number. But yes, kind of like stepping up and being a place to kind of receive that. And then also just sharing that out. Like we take some and turn it into meals, but we also share it out with our partners. So if we have lots of produce that we can't really turn into anything, then we're like, hey, you know, who can take this like fresh produce and like kind of pass this out to the different participants that they have in their programming. And so that's kind of what we do like on, I guess, like the kitchen side of things in our gardens. I think by doing sustainable practices and sustainable agriculture, and also having people come into our spaces and kind of learn about what we do and why we do it, you know, people asking questions about composting and like using compost tea, and really kind of doing like a low till type of method. You know, you're also passing along like that knowledge to all these people who are either interested or maybe just didn't even know like why things were done this way. You know, we've had so many questions of like, well, why don't we just use like, you know, just till all this place up, like, you know, with like a rototiller and stuff like that. And it's like, 'cause we don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to disturb things like that. Like we can still get a lot of work done using like easier, like sustainable practices, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Bringing it right on back.
Yep.
And so I have one more COVID related question, I suppose. But, one of the byproducts of this pandemic is, food insecurity being on the rise for, a lot of folks. So how has that affected, I guess, the Nashville Food Project's outreach or, yeah.
So, yes. So a lot of right now, like, sorry, it's changed how, or maybe it hasn't changed. I think that we've always worked with organizations to partner with people to share food. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just opened up more avenues for us to be able to be like, okay, this is what we do. This is how we provide food. Who needs our assistance? Who
Mm-hmm.
needs our help? And so I think that it's changed a little bit about the way that we give out food. So we do more like, we do some like individual kind of like portions and stuff like that to really kind of like for safety reasons. But honestly, since a lot of our partners haven't been able to continue with us, we've been able just to open up more avenues and ask, bring more people in to partner with us.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's really awesome, actually.
Mm.
And kind of a follow-up question to that would be, how can I, Patrick, the individual, help you all in y'all's mission?
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest way is by like donating money. Before it would be like volunteering and stuff like that. But I think to figure out, we have a newsletter that gets sent out and it's located like on our website. So the NashvilleFoodProject.org. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it has an area where you're able to like to fill out, to sign up, to subscribe for that newsletter. And that it's there and being connected like through email that we kind of post out the different things that we need. So a lot of the time we'll ask for like olive oil and like just like cooking and kitchen staples and stuff like that. Just to be like donated and different things like of that nature. You can also support some of the programs. So like I mentioned earlier, we have our Growing Together program that has like a market garden, and they have a space through Locally Grown where the vegetables that they're growing are actually for sale to the public. And so like supporting like those farmers and those gardeners and stuff like that is also like a really great help. But yeah.
Okay. And I'll be providing all of those links as well. So
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, sorry, about like volunteerism, like by signing up for our newsletter, you'll be informed, because I know that a lot of people are asking about like, when they can come back and like volunteer, and like, we miss you all so much. But yeah, so with the newsletter, we would be able to then kind of start to tell people like, okay, we're starting to like open up, like invite volunteers back in, and kind of the process for all of that.
Okay. Good to know for everyone listening. I had one more question about how folks could, if they were interested in volunteering, how would they go about that? But you already answered that question, so perfect.
Yes.
I got two more for you. And this one's a fun one since we're coming on the heels of a COVID-related question. What is your favorite vegetable or plant to grow, and why?
Oh, gosh. I think it's so funny that like I don't have a favorite vegetable to grow. I mean, to be honest, like I am still shocked that like you put a little tiny seed in the ground and it like grows into a plant in general. Like for some reason, I like still haven't like got it through my head that like this will work. And I'm always a little bit skeptical, like giving positive thoughts to the plant. And it's like, please grow. But like once like they go into the ground and then like you just leave them and like you're checking on them. And then like a week later you got like little baby plants. And then like maybe a month later, like it's just producing so much food. So I honestly am in awe, like whenever I plant a plant in general, and they're all my favorites. Gosh. But yeah, taking care of some of them, it can be a pain. Like summer vegetables are fun but a lot of them are very spiky that you wouldn't know. Like cucumbers, like they have little spikes on them.
Yeah.
Very dangerous plants. But still so cool, like just to see the different kinds, like things that like vine and things that just grow and get so expansive. They all have their own personalities.
Yeah.
And I really like just watching them grow and flourish in the garden.
Okay. So Kia Brown, friend to all plants, not really, except cucumbers. Maybe.
Except cucumbers.
Okay, you can sit down. Do you have any tips for folks who may be interested in starting their own garden in the community? Or in their community, rather? Yeah.
Yeah, like as a community garden or maybe just like in a backyard or something.
Could be a backyard, could be a front yard community garden where folks in the neighborhood can come by and get things.
Yeah, I would say start off small. Really kind of know what your capacity is for gardening. Locate everything. Like if you plant your garden and then you realize that you're like really far away from your water and stuff like that, think to yourself, or just really far away from your house, like think about like, will you want to, on the days that it is like 90 plus degrees outside, today. Like walk all the way out and like water and stuff like that and do this like on a regular basis. So plant for comfort in mind. Look at your yard and see, you know, what places get like the most sun and how long it gets sun for. And then honestly, just like start digging. Yeah. People ask me like, what's the hardest thing about gardening? And I say like not forgetting about it. So yeah, like once you start, that's why I say like start off small, create like your nice little like garden bed. And it doesn't even have to be a bed. Like you can have like planters like in a pot and just really start off like very basically and stuff like that. And then just kind of water them and take care of them. Yeah.
I feel like they might just do the rest. If you're watering them and take care of them, they'll produce and take care of you.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Like the plants, they want to grow. Like in that seed is the potential for a plant, and it's like it's just waiting. And so really, like once you put that seed in the soil, all your job is you're just kind of like a parent, and you're just like fending it off, because like the plant will grow, but then like maybe things will come out at it and you're like, no, get away.
Get out of here, squirrel.
Right. Gosh. Yeah. And then, but also don't be too hard on yourself. Like have grace, like, you know, it's like, that's another thing. Like sometimes things die. Like I kill plants and you know, it's okay. And it's a lesson, because we can't just stick something in the ground like for the first time and then expect for us to be experts at it. Like it takes time to kind of learn, you know, what works and what doesn't. So don't give up.
Okay. Those are some beautiful tips. And I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Urban Green Lab has launched a campaign called Find Your Lab, which encourages everyone to explore sustainable living and create a lab of learning in their own life. Can you tell us what you're currently working on to live more sustainably?
Ooh, what am I currently? I am trying, like, it's very difficult, but like, I have been trying to reduce like the plastic waste, and kind of try to live like more like zero waste. And so that's like recycling or like reusing like a lot of like my glassware, and stuff like that. Bringing it's kind of difficult now, but like before, like bringing like my own bags, like to the grocery store, and even like my own like little produce bags.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get like little green ones. Like rewashing like Ziploc bags, and like
Mm-hmm.
for the plastic that I already have in my house, I'm just trying to find like uses for it. So yeah, that is what I'm trying to do.
Excellent. That is something, I feel like that's an ongoing struggle for me as well. So
Mm,
it's good to hear that we're aligned there.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kia, thank you so much. If viewers have any additional questions or want to get involved, how can they best reach you?
Okay, so you can reach me at Kia at the NashvilleFoodProject.org.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you just have like a general question, it is info, INFO, at the NashvilleFoodProject.org.
Okay. And we'll be providing those beautiful links when we edit that in. So great stuff.
Perfect.
And before we go, are there any events or anything else you want to plug? I know you plugged some things throughout, but anything that comes to mind that?
Yes, actually, we are currently in the middle of our fundraising campaign. We typically have this really large dinner that happens every year during this time, but it's called Nourish.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to, kind of like donate for that, and it would definitely go a long way to kind of like helping us out and helping us to maintain all of our programs. And so we've been having like these really great looks inside of each of our programs. Oh yeah, it'd be a really great way for people to kind of see a little bit more about what we do. We've been
Mm-hmm.
taking videos of kind of like a day in the life of every kind of staff person that we have. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we have really nice like blogs and like videos and stuff like that, and just like a great way to find out about the food project and to also kind of help us out a little bit.
Excellent. All that and more. Great to hear. I'm going to be subscribing myself. Well, Kia, thank you so much for being with us today. Next week, we'll be interviewing Jason Carney of Energy Electives. If you have any questions for Jason or a recommendation for an organization you would like to learn more about, feel free to email me. My email address is Patrick, Patrick, at urbangreenlab.org. And until then, remember to live sustainably.